So yesterday, I tried to play some footage for you, but consequently, YouTube sorted to their best of their ability to stop my show. I was told that I was infringing upon someone's copyrights. So guess what I'm going to do today? I am not going to full screen anything. I'm going to actually stay right here, sit here, and I'm going to critique what it is that I'm going to show you so they understand that this is fair use. Fools, it's fair use. So I will periodically come in here to break this up, to critique it, so no one can say that it's someone's copyrighted footage in their entirety. And YouTube, if you think that you're going to send me any kind of emails threatening to remove the channel when I am clearly within the guidelines, I will sue you. And I don't care if you take the channel now, it's okay, you cut it off right now. Because if I don't win this year, if it's 10 years from now, it's gonna be cool for me because I'm still gonna sue you and get the money that I'm gonna get. You're not gonna just violate me and do this to me. I won't let you. I will. You know what? I'm gonna get into the show, but before this YouTube, I'm gonna explain something to you. If we have this many subscribers in less than 6 months, imagine what it will be in 6 months. Imagine what I will sue you for infringing upon if you play with me. I will not allow you to do this to me. I will not be bullied. I don't like bullies. I beat them up all the time. I've been smacking you around lately. Don't run around here with a black eye from Tony X. You're close to getting Rick James, YouTube. You're close to getting Rick James.
Please do remember that the New Right Party channel and the New Red Party show is sponsored by patriots like you. And as long as you're sending these donations, it allows me to create the content that will continue to make these motherfuckers sick. As you were.
He's on fire!
Versus the family and my family entertainment and his team no sleep. Flossy high and yeah we made it. The haters keep on hating on the songs that we be making, and I heard they want my soul. Illuminati wanna take it. Versus the family and my family entertainment and his team no sleep. Flossy high and yeah we made it. The haters keep on hating on the songs that we be making, and I heard they want my soul. Illuminati wanna take it.
CEO, bullshit, paying for the pussy. I endorse it. Riding through the city. That's my off. Everybody in the building. I want to give everybody a shout out for getting in the building. Earlier today's show, let me see how it sounds. Something's wrong with my audio. Let me see. Okay, hold on 1 second, people. Let me get this audio situated because I know y'all been holding it down with me. Let me just check. me see what's going on. Let me see if I caught the noise. Because people's been complaining about the audio. Still hear like a water. And it should be picked up. Hold on, let me try another mic. Let me try the Rode mic. Give me 1 second, people. Just bear with your brother. One, two, 1, 2. Is it me or do y'all hear water? Like, is it like drowning my joint out? Is that being done on purpose? Hold on, people. Hold on, people. This is amazing. It should be happening. We got one more mic. Let me try my body mic. Hold on, people. Just give me 1 second. This shit here is a little ridiculous. Well, they gonna do something, right? Touche, YouTube, because I'm telling you, I have a Rode mic. I have two Boyas, and there's no reason why I should be hearing any of these things through these mics. If you know about Rode mics and you know that mic is over $100, it's one of the best mics money could buy to actually do YouTubing with. All right, let me see. Doesn't matter. So we're gonna rock out. Y'all hear it in the background, just try to ignore it. I'm gonna try to talk on top of it. That way it's something that's relatively not really heard, because let me get into this. They're gonna try their best. Fuck them. Cocksuckers. That won't stop this shit though.
like one of those scenes of an old building being purposely dynamited and blown up.
Anybody who's ever watched a building being demolished on purpose knows that if you're going to do this, you have to get at the under-infrastructure of a building and bring it down.
The way the structure is collapsing, this was...
Now, mind you, I'm not having these organizations say these things. They're actually saying them themselves.
It's a result of something that was planned. It's not accidental that the first tower just happened to collapse and then the second tower just happened to collapse in exactly the same way. How they accomplished this, we don't know.
The building collapsed to dust. You don't find a desk. You don't find a chair. You don't find a telephone, a computer. The biggest piece of a telephone I found was half of the keypad, and it was about this big.
What happened to the concrete was pulverized from river to river. There was dust powder 2-3 inches thick. The concrete was just pulverized.
In addition to those pictures we've all seen too much on television before, a building was deliberately destroyed by world-class dynamite to knock it down.
This is firefighters saying it. This is controlled. This is men who are well versed in controlled demolition. It's not me making this footage up, because there's people on my Instagram right now who's about to see some footage from here, and they're going to tell me that it's fake. All this footage came from news sources.
I heard a second explosion.
There was a heavy-duty explosion.
That's why it's funny how someone could claim a copyright over this footage, which came from news sources.
There was some secondary explosions and then the subsequent collapses.
An explosion blew and it knocked everybody over. To me, it sounded like an explosion. It sounded like gunfire. Bang, 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 bang. And then all of a sudden, 3 big explosions.
We heard a big explosion coming down. And then the entire top of the building just blew up.
We saw some kind of explosion.
By the force of the explosion.
Big explosion. Blew us back into the 8th floor.
Then we get to the lobby, there's this big explosion.
The lobby looked as though a bomb had exploded there.
A huge explosion!
People, listen to what you're hearing.
Now raining debris.
A huge explosion.
Huge explosion that we all heard and felt.
We just witnessed some kind of follow-up explosion. We heard a very loud blast explosion.
The secondary explosion at Tower 1 camp.
That is another bomb going off. He thinks that there were actually devices that were planted in the building. Planted in the building.
They always take long with this. I hate this part. No warnings. Well, let's break this down.
I don't think anybody could have predicted that they would try to use an airplane as a missile, a hijacked airplane as a missile.
Nobody in our government, at least, and I don't think the prior government that could envision
This BDI piece of trash.
been flying airplanes into buildings.
No specific threat involving really domestic operation or involving what happened, obviously, the city's airliner.
There were no warning signs that I'm aware of.
USA Today reports that in the 2 years before the attacks on September the 11th, NORAD conducted exercises using hijacked airliners as weapons. And one target was the World Trade Center.
But no one knew. Somehow, the people who ran the government, who were in charge of knowing, didn't know.
In confidential documents from the Philippines obtained by CNN, the plan was clear. He will board any American commercial aircraft, control its cockpit, and dive it at the CIA headquarters. Other buildings targeted the Pentagon and the world.
This is before CNN's total crossover to the dark side. This is when they still had some journalism remaining there.
World Trade Center.
The Federal Aviation Administration received...
But he's a sellout, though. This guy here, he's a sellout.
52 warnings about al-Qaeda in the 6 months before 9/11 and did not, apparently, heed them.
The Pentagon reportedly does not want the public to hear next week's Senate testimony about the former secret intelligence unit known as Able Danger.
And it identified Mohammed Atta and 3 other 9/11 terrorists as members of an al-Qaeda cell in Brooklyn, New York, more than a year before the attacks.
We found 2 of the 3 cells which conducted 9/11 attacks.
Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer, who was the first member of Able Danger to go public, has now been told in writing by the Defense Intelligence Agency that he can't speak to members of Congress or their staff without prior approval.
This is an attempt to prevent the American people from knowing the facts about how we could have prevented 9/11, and people are covering it up today.
Security and counterterrorism was blinking red, in the words of George Tenet, that the warnings of an imminent attack were so severe that something dramatic should have been done. It was unparalleled. Instead, our president went on a month-long vacation.
This is where it gets interesting. You know, periodically I gotta get in here and I gotta get my shit on. How is it that they were just doing exercises for hitting the World Trade Center, but no one knew?
The head of Pakistani intelligence of the ISI, Mahmoud Ahmed, requested Omar Sheikh to wire $100,000 to Mohammed.
That's where we should have gone.
Atta, who was the lead hijacker.
Convicted hijacker Mohammed Atta received wire transfers via Pakistan. The man sending the money to Atta is believed to be Ahmed.
Where did they find this guy, this so-called Osama bin Laden guy? Somebody humor me. Tell me in the chat. Where did they find him?
Omar Saeed Sheikh. Omar Sheikh admitted he was supported by the Pakistan government's intelligence service, the ISI.
The 9/11 Commission deemed the financing of the attacks was of little practical significance in their report. Are you reading it?
As hard as this is to believe that 2 of the alleged terrorists involved in what happened on Tuesday may have attended schools run by the U.S. military.
Evidence was also apparently planted. The passport of one of the hijackers on Flight 11 was allegedly found in the rubble.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site.
How the fuck do you do that?
Believe that.
The 9/11 hijackers are alive and well. That's according to the chief of Japan's Democratic Party, who says 9/11 is a hoax.
Several of these 19 men are still alive.
So the same guy that is currently investigating the president, who ran the FBI, is the same guy that got these 6 living individuals on hijackers list currently to this day. I couldn't believe it when the FBI put up their list. They gave my name and my date of birth. But I am not a suicide bomber. I am here, I'm alive. I have no idea how to fly a plane. It's clear as day. At least 7 of the hijackers listed are still alive. But this guy is the current guy that is investigating the President of the United States of America. So when you ask me why I go so hard, why am I calling Obama and all of these people criminals? Why do you think? What is wrong with you? Go to the mirror, look at that person, and if you still believe in Barack Obama, smack the shit out of that person real hard.
Of course, we're after Saddam Hussein. Bin Laden. He's.
In the early 1980s, Bin Laden worked with operatives from U.S. intelligence, the Pakistani military, and Arab states. January 2001.
Where did they find him again? Where did they so-called find him again?
The Bush administration orders the FBI and intelligence agencies to back off investigations involving the Bin Laden family, including...
So the globalist Bushes made everybody back off? Why did they listen? Because they didn't have to listen. If they're criminals and they're investigating a criminal, they didn't have to listen. They would only listen because they're complacent.
Two of Osama bin Laden's relatives who were living, guess where? In Falls Church, Virginia, right next to CIA headquarters.
When he was already America's most wanted criminal, he reportedly spent 2 weeks in the American hospital in Dubai. Was treated by...
He was in Dubai, chilling. Sitting about 500,000 with all my niggas, all my guns, all my women. He was Biggie Smalls chilling on the beach.
An American doctor visited by the local CIA.
On the road to the riches.
We have not seen one piece of evidence that links Osama bin Laden directly to the planning stages of September 11th.
This failure to provide proof was later said to be unnecessary because bin Laden, in a video allegedly found in Afghanistan, admitted responsibility for the attacks.
This way it gets interesting because who had that exclusive footage? CNN. See how the government bought in? Do you see how they infiltrated right then and there and started to push their agenda by giving them exclusive tapes? They actually had a reporter find Osama bin Laden in a cave and he interviewed him. The only way you're going to find Osama bin Laden in a cave is if he has a black baby mama from Brooklyn. Because she going to find that nigga to make sure he paying the millions of dollars. Other than that, ain't no fucking news reporter finding no fucking Osama bin Laden in no fucking cave. And wake the fuck up, people. They couldn't find him for how long? But then they found him where? Why do we keep hearing the Pakistani government? Why didn't we go there? Why still currently haven't we gone there and fucking leveled it to nothing? Because some people here had to be complacent, right?
In 1976, Osama's older brother Salim bin Laden hired a man in Texas by the name of Jim Bath to handle all the investments in the United States for the bin Laden family. Jim Bath also happens to be a personal, almost lifelong friend and former Air National Guard pilot with George
W. Bush.
The connections between the Bushes and the bin Ladens become much more clear when George Herbert Walker Bush made trips to Saudi Arabia in 1998 and 2000 to meet with the bin Laden family on behalf of a company called the Carlyle Group.
On the morning of 9/11, the Carlyle Group was having a conference in Washington, which included Osama's older brother, Shafiq bin Laden. Shafiq bin Laden. The Carlyle Group is linked to the world's largest defense contractors, which continue to reap massive benefits off of the post-9/11 war on terrorism in Afghanistan and Iraq wars. But nobody went to Pakistan.
How could anyone fly a 60-ton, 125-foot wide, 44-foot tall plane through this obstacle course?
The aircraft, before striking the Pentagon, reportedly executed a 270-degree downward spiral, and yet Hani Hanyour was known as a terrible pilot who could not safely fly.
This nigga couldn't fly a kite.
Even a small plane.
No seats, no luggage, no bodies. Nothing but bricks and limestone.
The official explanation is that the intense heat from the jet fuel vaporized the entire plane. Flight 77 had two Rolls-Royce engines made of steel and titanium alloy and weigh 6 tons each. It is scientifically impossible that 12 tons
Impossible for that shit to happen.
of steel and titanium was vaporized by jet fuel.
We're also told that the bodies were able to be identified either by their fingerprints or by the DNA. So what kind of fire can vaporize aluminum and tempered steel and yet leave human bodies intact?
From my close-up inspection, there's no evidence of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon. And as I said, the only pieces left that you can see are small enough that you could pick up in your hand.
Shortly after the strike, government agents picked up debris and carried it off. The entire lawn was covered with dirt and gravel, so that any remaining forensic evidence was literally covered up. The videos from security cameras, which would show what really hit the Pentagon, were immediately confiscated by agents of the FBI, and the Department of Justice has to this day refused to release them. If these videos would prove that the Pentagon was really hit by a 757, most of us would assume the government would release them.
Let's go to Pennsylvania.
It looks like there's nothing there except for a hole in the ground.
Basically, that's right. The only thing you could see from where we were was a big gouge in the earth and some broken trees. We could see some people walking around in the area, but from where we could see, there wasn't much left.
Any large pieces of debris at all?
No, there was nothing that you could distinguish that a plane had crashed there.
This is what a plane crash looks like in Nigeria, when a plane crashes. And that's what it looked like in Shakespeare.
The FBI and the state police here have confirmed that they have cordoned off a second area about 6 to 8 miles away from the crater here. This is apparently another debris site. Why would debris be located 6 miles away? Could it have blown that far away? Seems highly unlikely.
Let's get to this.
Pancake theory, according to which the fires, while not melting the steel, heated it up sufficiently to cause the floors weakened by the airplane strikes to break loose from the steel columns, and this started a chain reaction.
So you would expect then from that theory, which is the official theory, to see a whole stack of floors piled up on top of each other and then a spindle of core columns standing too.
The core of each of the twin towers consisted of 47 massive steel columns. If the floors had broken loose from them, these columns would have still been sticking up into the air 1,000 feet.
The plane did not cut all those core columns.
We designed the buildings to take the impact of the Boeing 707 hitting the building at any location.
The building probably could sustain multiple impacts of jetliners.
But the plane flew straight into the building.
Right.
So you're saying that the building was actually designed to cope with a hole like that and then still survive?
If you would drop, say, a billiard ball from the top of the World Trade Center, 110 floors up there, it would have taken 8 to 10 seconds to hit the ground, encountering no resistance whatsoever.
The Twin Towers came down at nearly free-fall speed. 200,000 tons of steel shatters and explodes outwards over 500 feet.
This means that floors shattered at an average rate of about 10 floors per second.
There is no scenario for...
That's fucking crazy. Just listen to this.
pancake effect of buildings falling that allows them to fall at the rate of free fall.
Now, what can do that? What can move mass out of the way? Explosives.
You see it, people?
47 huge steel columns going up the core, and they're interconnected. How do you get them to fail simultaneously so the core disappears? It looks like those core columns were cut.
The way we do this is by cutting the beam at an angle.
That looks charred and melted to me. Look at all the molten metal around it.
I started looking at the molten metal. All three buildings, both towers in the rubble, in the basement areas, and building 7, there's these pools of molten metal.
Get down below and you see molten steel running down the channel mills. Like you're in a foundry. Like lava.
This is a firefighter just saying.
Molten steel was found 3, 4, and 5 weeks later when the rubble was being removed. He said that molten steel was also found underneath World Trade Center 7.
So I'm looking through the official reports. What do they say about the molten metal? They say nothing. Wait a minute. This is important evidence. Where'd that come from?
They don't say anything about it because if they do, then people will ask questions.
Thermite is so hot that it'll just cut through steel, through structural steel, for example, like a knife through butter. The products are molten iron and aluminum oxide, which goes off primarily as a dust. You know those enormous dust clouds? You can imagine when you assemble these chemicals on a large scale.
So, Professor Niels Harrit, you examined the rubble that came from the World Trade Center. What did you find in it?
Well, in there we find remains of what we characterize as a thermitic material. And this is a very energetic material which can be used either for melting iron or it can be designed as an explosive. The evidence for controlled demolition is overwhelming. I told you that the thermite reaction produced molten iron. Molten iron was in pools of molten iron in the rubble, and the point is that the thermite kept on reacting. This was a bitch's brew of thermite chemistry.
Molten metal pools under both towers after they collapsed, and Building 7. Now, Building 7 wasn't even hit by a jet.
Part of the problem is that most people simply don't know much about Building 7 due to the extraordinary.
Well, we're going to learn about Building
surrounding
7 today.
collapse.
We're going to learn about Building 7 today because I had someone on my Instagram tell me that they didn't believe something that I posted. Silly mortal.
This was a 47-story skyscraper. This building fell at 5:25.
It was not hit by a plane. This building had fires on only 2 or 3 floors.
And it was brought down by what we know was a controlled demolition.
Demolitions, they look just like that. Pink in the middle, and then that building just comes straight down, almost at free fall speed.
Nothing even touched this building. They covered it up, people. But they had to admit the free fall at 2.25 seconds, 8 floors. Couldn't deny that though. Let's go. Let's review these
Our
explosions.
office was on the B1 level. As I was talking to a supervisor at 8:46, and all of a sudden we hear, boom! An explosion so hard that pushed us upwards. And it came from the basement between the B2 level and the B3 level. And when I went to verbalize, we hear, boom! The impact of the plane on the top.
It would appear, Jim, as if there's more smoke coming from the ground.
I was down in the basement, came down, all of a sudden the elevator blew up.
And as we were coming out, we passed the lobby. There was no lobby. So I believe the bomb hit the lobby first. And a couple of seconds, then the first plane hit.
As I'm walking by the main freight car of the building, in the corridor, that's when I got blown. I mean, the impact of the explosion threw me to the floor, and that's when everything started happening. All of a sudden, a big impact happened again, and all the ceiling tile was falling down, the light fixtures were falling. You know, you got to go clear across the whole from 1 to 2 World Trade Center, and then all of a sudden, it happened all over again. Something else hit us to the floor. Right in the basement, you felt it. Walls were caving in, everything that was going on. I mean, I know people that got killed in the basement. I know people that got broken legs in the basement. People that got reconstructive surgery because the walls hit them in the face.
According to standard operating procedure, if an FAA flight controller notices anything that suggests a possible hijack, the controller is to contact the superior. If the problem cannot be fixed within about a minute, the superior is to ask NORAD, the North American Aerospace Command, to send up or scramble jet fighters to find out what is going on. NORAD then issues a scramble order to the nearest Air Force base with fighters on alert. But although interceptions usually occur within 10 or so minutes, in this case, 80 or so minutes had elapsed before fighters were even airborne.
It's a mind-bending anomaly. Not a single U.S. Air Force interceptor,
Not one. With all of this happening.
turns a wheel until it's too late. There are no jets at all.
What if they were so confused and had been so deliberately confused that they couldn't respond?
What if?
The reason that they didn't know where to go was because a number of conflicting and overlapping war game exercises were taking place. It involved the insertion of false radar blips onto radar screens in the Northeast Air Defense Sector.
Lieutenant Team U, we have a problem here. We have a hijacked aircraft headed towards New York. We need someone to scramble some F-16s or something up the south.
Is this real world or exercise? Is this real world or exercise? There was another exercise, Vigilant Warrior, which was, in fact, according to a NORAD source, a live-fly hijack drill being conducted at the same time. With only 8 available fighter aircraft, and they have to be dispatched in pairs, they were dealing with as many as 22 possible hijacks on the day of 9/11, and they couldn't separate the war game exercises from the actual hijacks.
You hear that? It's crazy. Now let's break these clowns down. So we can break down this guy who's investigating our president.
The U.S. government has not been able to determine the origin of the money used for the 9/11 attacks.
But they know who
Ultimately,
gave the money
The question is of little practical significance.
The American authorities have not managed to trace the source of the funding. And then the most amazingly disingenuous statement ultimately is it of little consequence. It is of massive consequence.
Doesn't it matter who paid for 9/11?
The collapse of Building 7 has been recognized as especially difficult to explain. The 9/11 Commission report implicitly admitted that it could not explain the collapse of this building by not even mentioning it.
President, why are you and the Vice President insisting on appearing together before the 9/11 Commission?
Because the 9/11 Commission wants to ask us questions. That's why we're meeting, and I look forward to meeting with them and answering their questions.
Why you're appearing together rather than separately, which was their request?
Because it's a good chance for both of us to answer questions that the 9/11 Commission
Might need to check and see if that man's still alive.
is looking forward to asking us, and I'm looking forward to answering them. Let's see.
Do you think they should be able to stand up and speak their own words? They should go under oath. They should be, in public.
Don't you think that the families deserve to have a transcript or to be able to see what you
Adam, you
said?
asked me that question yesterday. I got the same answer, yeah.
The final report was a unanimous report. That means that if there was a single commissioner who had any objection about anything, that fact would be dropped from the report.
We have found out that he not only served on the transition team of the Bush administration, that he was a person who wrote a draft memo for the setup of the Bush administration's national security
You see how long they've been using this government against these people?
council, that he was an individual who wrote the preemptive war strategy that was eventually used for the war in Iraq, that he is a close friend of Condoleezza Rice's. We want him to resign.
There is literally nothing in the 9/11 report that the Bush administration did not approve of.
We can understand, therefore, why the commission, under Zelikow leadership, would have ignored all the evidence.
And then they sold the books and made money off the lies.
To point to the truth. That 9/11 was a false flag operation intended to authorize the doctrines and funds needed for a new level of imperial mobilization.
Let's get into this.
Armed with knives, armed with chemical, biological, nuclear weapons. Fanatics, terrorists, September 11th. September 11th, killers, September 11th, terrorists, Al-Qaeda, terrorists, nuclear weapons, terrorists. 9/11, terrorists, evil. September 11th, September 11th, the terrorism, war and danger. September 11th, terrorism, global terrorism, 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 terrorists, the terrorists, terrorism. September 11th, global terrorism, terrorism. September 11th, world terrorism, terrorism. September 11th, global terrorism. September the 11th, terror. Weapons of mass.
And Giuliani's defense, he was running. So when they mimicked him saying that, that's because he was actually running. And he was trying to get the Republican nomination. And it was against these guys. So I take my hat off to Giuliani still.
Destruction. September the 11th. September the 11th. Terrorists. The evil terrorists. No.
Terrorism. The words are hypnotically repeated. Terrorism, terrorist, terrorist threat, and of course, believed to be linked to Al-Qaeda. But
what are they currently doing now? The Nazis are trying to call our president a Nazi. Yahtzee!
So-called war on terrorism that's in our faces practically 24/7 as the inescapable focus of our existence.
One day, our grandchildren will look back on this time and ask, how was the war on terror won?
The entire U.S. ruling class, ruling elite, comes to see terrorism as the preferred means, indeed the only means, to provide social cohesion, to provide an enemy image for the society to keep it together. According to neocon theory from Carl Schmitt, you have to have an enemy image in order to have a society. It's a very dangerous thing because now it means that the entire social order, the political parties, intellectual life, politics in general, all based on a monstrous myth.
Look, the CIA has done in this country, what they've done to us is unbelievable. Look at the terrorist acts that have occurred. The CIA behind most, if not all of them. We had the Marine barracks. We had our embassy in Kenya. We had Pan Am 103. We had the USS Cole. We had Oklahoma City. We had the World Trade Center in 1993.
That helped the terrorists blow up the World Trade Center the first time. They built the bomb. They got the driver's license.
The informant, yep.
This is real, people. This is back in 1993.
Informant, a fellow named Salam, a 43-year-old former Egyptian army officer, he was given the assignment to put the bomb together. And he went to his supervisor, his FBI supervisor, and said, we're going to put a dummy bomb in here, right? And the FBI supervisor said, no, we're going to put a real bomb.
FBI agents might have been able to prevent last February's deadly explosion at New York's World Trade Center. They discussed secretly substituting harmless powder for the explosives, but they didn't, according to the FBI's own informant, Imad Salem. Unbeknownst to the FBI at the time, Salem recorded many of his conversations with his handlers.
Unfortunately for them, there were only 6 people killed, not enough to pass the legislation. So what happened is 2 years later, April 19, 1995, down comes Oklahoma City Murrah building, 168 people killed. 1 year later, the anti-terrorism legislation that takes away many of our constitutional rights and civil liberties is passed.
Look at this. Look at this footage, people.
It was at 9:30 this morning. We were actually running an exercise for over a company of 1,000 people in London based on simultaneous bombs going off precisely at the railway stations that happened this morning. So I still have the hairs on the back of my neck standing upright.
To get this quite straight, you were running an exercise to see how you would cope with this, and it happened while you were running the exercise?
Precisely.
People wake up, man.
Supposed to believe is some kind of coincidence. There was also an anti-terrorist drill going on 7/7. And again, just like 9/11, they were talking about attacks on the same targets, the same kind of tube stations, at exactly the same time as the actual attack happened, providing some kind of cover for what must be operations orchestrated in some way by the state.
I am absolutely appalled at how much people in this country do not think. We are given to understand that a guy out there up in the mountains financed the most elaborate attack on this country.
You think the people in a cave, were able to have NORAD stand down? Do you think the people in a cave were able to have all of this happen?
And when I think about how many Americans were killed in New York City, and believing as I do that this thing was a setup job, this is a textbook operation that Nazis used, and they've used it over and over again. America has been suckered in one more time.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad.
The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street. There's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone.
No, I'm not.
I want you to get mad.
I want you to get mad.
I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to
No.
ride. I don't want you to write to your congressman
No.
because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write.
No.
I don't know what to do about the depression
No.
and the inflation and the Russians and the
No.
crying in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
You gotta be
You've
mad.
got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
You gotta say my life has meaning. You have to say my life has value. You gotta be really fucking upset to be up here in a fucking Oval fucking office, smoking fucking weed, knowing that these people killed thousands of fucking people, and put your fucking face out there and call them what the fuck they are. You got to be really fucking mad. And you're not going to take it anymore. I want to thank everybody for tuning into today's show. Now that I've heard of the noise with the mic, I will try my best to get that fixed. I had to let it echo. I had to let it echo, people. I know I had to cut the TV off. That way no one can say anything about any copyright infringements or anything else. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Let me get in here and let me check this chat real quick so I can give a shout out to everybody in the building. First, shout out all my moderators, which is Ash Dropping Jolly, Michelle, Rizal, Reese, Activist Granny, YouTube Guy, Dina, I'm definitely not gonna forget you, Dina. Who else? I don't want to miss no moderators. Trying my best to remember. All right, let me get in here. Deplorable Arab, you're always in the building on the check-in. A lot of love to you. Thank you, Chris Marshall. Ash Dropping Jolly, shout out to you. Will Mendez, shout out to you. Ghost of McCain, shout out to you. Live Free or Die, shout out to you. FTC NYC, shout out to you. Sean Maville, shout out to you. Bug 5353, shout out to you. Yeah, Deanna Marie's in the building, like I said. She's always in the building. Shout out to you, Deanna. Jada Jeweler TV, shout out to you. Jada Jeweler TV, if you got some pieces, you need to get at me. Dawn Wells, shout out to you. Lance the Grumpy Fisherman, shout out to you. I do think I said Live Free or Die, but if I haven't, shout out to Live Free or Die. Spell Check, my moderator, shout out to you in the building. Freddy Baby, shout out to you.